Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Fortunes. Now, a lot has happened this week. We had a few big results last week. We got a few big games this week, and we've already lost our first manager of the season in Crystal Palace's Frank de Boer. So a lot of interesting decisions to make this week, and we've got less time than we normally would because there's a Friday fixture this week as well. So let's have a quick look at the fixtures. So the first fixture of this game week then is Bournemouth at home to Brighton and Hove Albion. Now Bournemouth have looked very poor this season, still on 0 points, not scoring a lot of goals and leaking a few at the back. Brighton Hove Albion obviously got their first win of the Premier League last week at home to West Brom, which is a very, very good performance and a very surprising one at that. So you'd have to think that Brighton probably have the momentum going into this one, and if you're going to pick any of their players, their two big performers last week were Hemid up front and Gross in the midfield. If you're going to pick a Bournemouth player, Jermaine Defoe is about the only reliable person you can think of he had a few chances against Arsenal, was unlucky not to get a goal, and he's probably going to be the only source of points that you can realistically rely on from Bournemouth. But on the whole, it's a game I'm struggling to call, and I'd probably stay away from it. Now, to be honest, the second fixture as well is also one that I'd probably quite like to stay away from. We've got Crystal Palace playing at home against Southampton. Now, Crystal Palace had their manager Frank de Boer sacked after only 4 games, which I can't understand. Ridiculous. If they're going to want to implement a new policy on their club, you've got to give the manager more than 4 games. Will there be a full-time manager in charge before the weekend? You don't know. How will they play without a manager or with a caretaker manager? We don't know either. Obviously, they've not scored any goals. Southampton have struggled for goals themselves. I think they've drawn a blank 3 times out of the 4 games this season, only scoring against West Ham. So there's no reliable sources on either team really, and anyone that you would want to pick at all this game week. So the third game then sees Leicester City taking on Huddersfield Town at Huddersfield Town, who have finally now lost the game in the Premier League against the almighty West Ham. And in fairness, they didn't trouble West Ham too much on Monday night. I was there watching the game. Tom Ince was about the only player that I would consider looking like a regular source of points for them for the remainder of this season. He hit the bar, he's got a wicked left foot on him, taking corners and that kind of thing. So maybe think about getting him in, but I can't see anything other than a comfortable Leicester victory in this one. And looking at Leicester, if you want a clean sheet at the back, Maguire's your man to go for. And then going forwards, obviously Riyad Mahrez, he is expensive in the midfield, or Jamie Vardy at front. I think he's going to cause them a lot of issues. Now, one of the big surprise results last week was Man City absolutely smashing Liverpool 5-0 at home. But now Liverpool are playing at home against Burnley, and you like to think they're going to show their fans that they've got a bit of fight about them. And I think they're going to put in a good, comfortable performance. Obviously, they're not going to have Sadio Mane, so they're going to lose a bit there, but you'd have to think that either Coutinho or Sturridge are going to come back in for him. But if you want points, you've got to look at Mohamed Salah. I mean, he's quite expensive, but he is a midfielder, so he's going to get extra points if he's playing in that kind of right forward position. He does create a lot of chances. Unfortunately, his finishing does let him down a little bit, but it's only time until he starts more consistently finding the back of the net, in my opinion. Like I said, obviously Roberto Firmino, he's been very, very solid and been leading the line for Liverpool so far. Also chucking a few defenders in there if you like, because you've got some cheap ones at Liverpool actually, like Alberto Moreno down that left hand side, only 4.5 million as well. He's been looking to use his pace to get in beside that Burnley backline, and I can't see past a comfortable Liverpool victory in this one. Looking at the Newcastle versus Stoke City fixture then, obviously Newcastle had a big win away at Swansea over the weekend, but Stoke also played very, very well at home, getting a 2-2 draw against Manchester United, the first points that Manchester United have dropped this season. So although Newcastle are going to be bringing the momentum back home, I think it's difficult to look past Stoke just edging this one, I think, especially with the attacking threat that they've got. Obviously, Chipping Boateng started scoring goals. Hesse's looked very, very likely. Shaqiri always can pop up with a goal. Loves to get his shots away. And at the back, they did actually look very, very solid. I mean, against the attacking lineup they were facing in Man United, I thought they did actually handle it very, very well. Kurt Zouma had an absolute blinder, so I'd suggest maybe bringing him in. He's a bit of a threat in the box as well. And Jack Butland, great keeper. I think he's probably England's best keeper at the minute, and made a lot of saves against Man United as well. So he'd be a good shout actually to get in goalkeeper at the back, so I think he will keep a clean sheet and also make a fair few saves along the way. Then up next, we've got quite an interesting fixture in my eyes. We've got Watford playing at home to Manchester City. Now Watford, every single week I'm ready to write them off, and each week they keep on surprising me. So they had a big 2-0 win away at Southampton in the Premier League last weekend. Man City obviously smashing Liverpool 5-0 as I said before. So I mean, they've both got good momentum coming into this game, and Watford playing at home, they could cause Man City trouble. In terms of who you're going to pick from Watford though, Doucouré is the only person who I can see consistently scoring points from that midfield. He's not afraid to have a shot and get forward as well. Long, striding man, kind of almost like a young Yaya Toure. He's looking like that's the kind of position he's playing this season. So he could be a good source of points. But against Man City side, like I said, 5-0, you can't read too much into that because that was just too easy for them. And then you've got difficulty with who's going to play, because obviously Gabriel Jesus, Aguero both played well, both scored goals. You imagine they're both going to start. Then Leroy Sané coming on, scoring 2 late goals as well. Will he get in the side? And it's impossible to pick who's going to play in that midfield for them. So the only people that I could say definitely get in, Gabriel Jesus looked like a good source of goals, always in the right place at the right time. Leroy Sané, really, if you want like a cheap option, he's only about 8.2 at the minute, but Kevin De Bruyne at an expensive option. I said last week, getting David Silva, he'll definitely score points. He scored no points last week, and all of a sudden Kevin De Bruyne started scoring points again, so maybe he's going to be getting assists and goals more regularly from now on. But in fairness, you can't really go, it depends what your budget's like. If you've got enough, get Kevin De Bruyne in there. The cheaper option, stick with David Silva. And now we've got another interesting one, West Brom at home to West Ham. Now West Brom, a bit of a shock defeat in my eyes, 3-1 as well, comfortable for Brighton at home against them last week. And you didn't think that a West Brom side, a Pulis side, is going to concede 3 goals against a team that hadn't scored any in the league yet so far. And then moving on to West Ham, Monday night fixture, massive 2-0 win against Huddersfield that I went to go and see. And in fairness, we did play very, very well. The 2 goals that we scored were very, very scrappy. Yeah, but it's a game that we definitely deserve to win. So who's going to win this one? West Brom at home. I mean, you think that they're going to put in a solid defensive performance as well. They won't like having conceded 3 last week. But then Andy Carroll now playing back for West Ham. He was masses and masses of trouble for the Huddersfield back line on Monday night. And you'd like to think that he's going to get himself in there, throwing himself around again. Probably get injured in the process, but little knockdowns and winning headers on that back line is going to be massive in this fixture that is going to be proper nitty gritty. So you've got a choice really. If you think West Ham are going to score a goal away from West Brom, then get Andy Carroll in because he looked very, very good Monday night and he's cheap. If you don't think they're going to score a goal, then obviously get those West Brom defenders in there again. We're talking Higazi, Johnny Evans, maybe even Ben Foster if you want. And Nyom, the right back, actually, he's been playing very well. He's got himself a few assists as well, so he could be quite likely down that side, as Aaron Cresswell not been great so far this season for West Ham. The next fixture then, the late kickoff on the Saturday, is Tottenham playing at home to Swansea. Now Tottenham have obviously struggled at Wembley, everyone's very, very aware of that, but playing at home against Swansea, a side that are struggling themselves, I can't see anything more than a comfortable win here for Tottenham. Harry Kane, it's not August anymore, he started scoring goals. I think he's going to score plenty of goals from now on in this season, as you would expect from him really. So you've got to just stack your team with as many Tottenham players as you can, I think, in this week. I mean, Harry Kane, Christian Eriksen, Kieran Trippier, Ben Davies, Hugo Lloris. I mean, literally all of these options are going to be rewarding this week, I feel, and a captain's got to come out of there from somewhere as well. So in my opinion, just go Tottenham, 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 and that's coming from a West Ham fan. And then after probably the most disappointing Super Sunday of all time, we now move on to a real Super Sunday, and the first fixture, Chelsea playing at home to Arsenal. Now this is a fixture that has not been massively kind for Arsenal over the years in the Premier League. Chelsea have definitely come out the victors more often than not in recent times. So I can't really see that changing as well. I think Arsenal will really struggle to break down this Chelsea defence, and the outlet that Chelsea have in Morata is really, really paying off for him. He's looking like a great signing for them, scoring a lot of goals with his head, the kind of thing that Arsenal do struggle with, free kicks and corners coming in like that. So I'd definitely look at getting Morata in for a cheaper striker option at 10.1. Cesc Fabregas as well, only 5.9 million in that mil for Chelsea, and you can see that that's just the kind of player coming back to his old club, playing against Arsenal, that will just end up cutting them apart and depressing Arsenal fans all over the world. In terms of Arsenal, definitely don't put any defenders in there whatsoever. If you're going to get a striker in, maybe Lacazette, but he's expensive, and like I say, I can't really see Arsenal causing Chelsea that many problems, unfortunately. The final match of the game week then is Man United at home to Everton. Now Everton were absolutely woeful against Spurs at the weekend, absolutely smashed, barely got out the blocks at all. And if they play like that at Manchester United, then I'm sure they're going to get smashed again. But with Rooney making his return to Old Trafford, even though he has got a lot of personal stuff going on at the minute, you never know, he could have an absolute worldie and cause a bit of a shock upset, but I can't really see that happening too much, to be honest. I think Man U will be in for a comfortable performance in the end, 2 or 3 goal win probably. And then obviously when we're talking about Man U players, again, if you think they're going to get a clean sheet, Phil Jones, he didn't play great against Stoke, but he's cheaper. All the other Man United defenders and David De Gea in goal are quite expensive. In terms of the midfield, Pogba wasn't really that impressive against Stoke either, but Mkhitaryan still getting assists game after game. And Lukaku, even though I don't think he's playing particularly well, he still manages to find a way to score goals, and especially playing against his old club in Everton, he could have a hat-trick on the cards here, so definitely get him in if you can afford him. Those are my fantasy fortunes then for game week 5 of the Premier League. As always, leave me a comment below and let me know if you think I've missed anyone out, or if there's anybody that you should definitely be getting in your team that you think is going to be a big scorer this game week. Also, let me know who you think captain choices are going to be, especially if there's someone in my team of the week that I've picked who you think definitely needs to be a captain, or even a triple captain choice, because obviously those options are always available. So like I said, let me know, give me a like if you want to see more of this series for the rest of the season, and if you do, then I will see you next week.